The massive crystal walls of the Galactic Council chamber sparkled under the light of 3 artificial suns. Senior Counselor Tarim stood at his observation post, his gray robes flowing around his tall, slender frame. His dark eyes were fixed on the holographic display floating before him. "This can't be right," he muttered, adjusting the controls. The energy readings from the outer sectors kept spiking in patterns he hadn't seen in decades. A soft chime announced someone's arrival. Senior Counselor. Mino stepped into the room, carrying a data crystal. The young assistant's usually neat uniform looked wrinkled, suggesting he had been working through the night. "I have the reports you asked for." Tarim turned away from the display. "Show me." Mino inserted the crystal into the nearby console. New images filled the air around them. Graphs, charts, and surveillance footage from the edge of regulated space. The gravitational distortions are getting stronger. They match the patterns from the old archives, the ones about human warfare technology. A chill ran down Tarim's spine. The humans. Of course it had to be the humans. The Council had spent 300 years trying to keep them contained in their small corner of the galaxy, not through force, that had proved impossible, but through careful treaties, trade agreements, and gentle diplomatic pressure. "Have you told anyone else about this?" Tarim asked. "No, sir. Just as you ordered." Mino pointed to one of the charts. "But the defense fleet will notice soon. These energy spikes are getting harder to hide." Tarim walked to the chamber's main window. Below, the capital city of the Galactic Council spread out like a web of light and crystal. Millions of beings from thousands of species lived there, all believing they were safe under the Council's protection. None of them knew about the real danger the humans posed. "Sir," Mino's voice shook slightly. "The old stories about human ships, are they true?" Tarim closed his eyes, remembering the classified footage he'd seen when he first joined the Council. A single human vessel taking on an entire pirate fleet. The impossible maneuvers, the weapons that seemed to break the laws of physics, the shields that simply absorbed everything thrown at them. "The stories don't tell half of it," he said quietly. "Do you know why we work so hard to keep humans contained in their sector?" Mino shook his head. "Because they never stop improving. Other species reach a plateau in their technology. They find a comfortable level and stay there. Humans." Tarim laughed without humor. "They look at their most advanced technology and ask, how can we make this better?" A new alert flashed on the display. Another energy spike, bigger than the others. Mino rushed to the console. "Sir, this one's different. It's like something is trying to tear open space itself." Tarim felt his heart skip a beat. "Where?" "Sector 7, near the Calder trading routes." Mino's fingers flew over the controls. "The pattern suggests, sir, it looks like something big is coming through. Really big." The room's lighting suddenly shifted to a deep red. A computer voice spoke calmly. "Alert. Unregistered quantum disturbance detected in Sector 7. All Council members please report to the emergency chamber." Tarim straightened his robes. "Mino, download all the data we have. Every reading, every scan, everything from the past month. Then delete the originals from the main system." "Sir." Mino looked confused. "That's against protocol. The Council will panic when they see this. They'll want to launch an immediate military response." Tarim headed for the door. "And if what I fear is true, if the humans have really broken free of their containment, a military response is the last thing we want to try." As they hurried through the crystal corridors, Tarim's mind raced. For centuries, the Council had believed they were protecting the galaxy from humanity. But as he reviewed the patterns of the energy spikes, a new thought struck him. What if the humans had known about the containment all along? What if they had simply played along, using their isolation to develop their technology in secret? And most importantly, what could have happened to make them finally decide to reveal themselves? The emergency chamber doors loomed ahead. Behind them, Tarim knew he would find a room full of scared Council members, all demanding immediate action. But as he felt the data crystal Mino had slipped into his pocket, he realized that fear might be the least appropriate response to what was coming. Sometimes, he thought, your worst fears turning out to be true could actually be exactly what you needed. Lieutenant Huck sat in the command chair of his patrol ship, trying not to look bored. Another quiet day guarding the trade routes near Sector 7. His ship, the Star Watcher, was the newest in the Council Defense Fleet, but today it felt like an oversized space taxi. "Sir," called out his sensor officer, "I'm picking up strange readings ahead." Huck straightened in his chair. "What kind of readings?" I don't know. The space in front of us is bending. Like something is pulling it apart." The main screen showed empty space. Then a tiny point of light appeared. It grew larger, spreading out like a flower made of lightning. Huck's hands gripped his chair's armrests. "Get me Commander Dina," he ordered. "Now." The screen split, showing the face of his superior officer. Commander Yina's usually calm expression changed to worry when she saw the readings. "Lieutenant, pull your ship back 5,000 units, she ordered. "I'm activating the defense grid. Whatever's coming through, we need to be ready." "Yes, Commander." Huck turned to his pilot. "You heard her. Back us up, nice and slow." The Star Watcher moved away from the growing light show. Other patrol ships appeared on their sensors, taking up defensive positions. Huck counted 12 Council ships in total, more than enough to handle most threats, he thought. He was wrong. The point of light exploded outward, forming a perfect circle of swirling energy. Through it came the largest ship Huck had ever seen. It was dark gray, shaped like a massive arrow, and it made his patrol ship look like a toy. "Size estimate?" he asked, his mouth dry. 3 kilometers in length, sir," his sensor officer replied, voice shaking. It's bigger than our largest space station." The giant ship hung in space, its hull covered in lines of soft blue light. Huck had never seen anything like it, but something about its design seemed familiar. "Sir," his communications officer waved to get his attention. "We're getting an identification signal. It's human." The word fell like a stone into a quiet pond. Everyone on the bridge stopped moving. Humans were supposed to be contained in their own sector, far from here. Their ships weren't allowed in Council space, yet here one was, larger and more advanced than anything the Council had. Commander Yina's face reappeared on the screen. "All ships, hold your positions. Do not fire unless fired upon. Lieutenant Huck, since you're in command of our newest ship, you'll make first contact." Huck nodded, trying to keep his voice steady. "Opening communications now." The main screen lit up again, showing the bridge of the human ship. It was surprisingly simple, clean white walls, organized workstations, and at the center, a single command chair. In it sat a human male in a dark uniform with silver trim. "This is Captain Sanghun of the United Earth ship Thunderchild," the human said in perfect Council standard language. "We apologize for any alarm our arrival may have caused." Huck followed first contact protocol. "This is Lieutenant Cook of the Council Defense Fleet. You have entered restricted space. Please explain your presence here." Captain Sanghun smiled slightly. "Of course. We've come with important information for the Galactic Council. Information about a threat approaching from the galaxy's core." Commander Yina cut into the transmission. "Any messages for the Council can be sent through proper diplomatic channels. Your presence here violates 3 different treaties." "Commander," Sanghun's smile faded. "With respect, we don't have time for proper channels. What's coming will be here within days. The Council needs to know that humanity hasn't been idle during our containment. We've been preparing." Huck watched as his sensors picked up more readings from the human ship. Its power levels were off the charts. Its hull was made of materials his scanners couldn't even identify. And there were spaces inside it that seemed to be bigger than they should be, as if the ship was bending reality itself. "Commander," he said privately to Yina, "I don't think we can stop them if they decide to move." "I know," she replied quietly. "That's what worries me. Alert the council. Tell them." She paused, looking at the massive human ship. "Tell them their worst fear has come true. The humans are loose in the galaxy again. And this time, they're far beyond anything we can control." The Thunderchild floated silently against the stars, its mere presence changing everything the council thought they knew about the balance of power in the galaxy. And somewhere, in the darkness between the stars, something worse was coming. Captain Sang-hun walked through the main corridor of the Thunderchild, his footsteps echoing against the metal floor. Crew members stopped to salute as he passed, but he could see the tension in their faces. They all knew what was at stake. He entered the ship's meeting room, where large windows showed the council fleet still holding their defensive position. 12 small ships trying to look threatening. It would have been funny if the situation wasn't so serious. "Captain," his first officer called out, "the council representatives are ready for the video meeting." Sang-hun nodded and sat at the head of the long table. The wall screen lit up, showing 5 council members. He recognized Senior Counselor Taram in the center, looking calmer than the others. "Captain Sang-hun," Taram spoke first, "your appearance has caused quite a stir." "I understand," Sang-hun replied. "But we need to talk about bigger problems than broken treaties." One of the other council members, a tall female with silver hair, leaned forward. "Bigger problems. You've revealed that humans have technology far beyond what should be possible. How did you hide this from us?" Sang-hun allowed himself a small smile. "Counselor, we never hid anything. You gave us a small sector of space and told us to stay there. We stayed, but you never asked what we were doing in that space." He pressed a button on the table. A hologram appeared between them, showing the Thunderchild's true capabilities. The council members' eyes widened as they saw the impossible numbers. "This ship," Sang-hun explained, "can bend space. We can make wormholes at will. Our engines use artificial gravity as fuel. Our computers can think faster than organic brains. And this isn't even our most advanced ship." The council chamber went silent. Taram spoke again, his voice steady. "How many ships do you have?" "Enough." Sang-hun's face became serious. "But that's not why we're here. We've detected something coming from the galaxy's core, something old and hungry and unstoppable by normal means." He sent another set of data to the council. Images from deep space telescopes showed a dark mass moving between the stars, consuming everything in its path. "The Devourers," Taram whispered. "You know about them. They're supposed to be extinct. Our ancestors fought them thousands of years ago." Sang-hun stood up and walked closer to the screen. "They're not extinct. They're back, and they're heading this way. That's why we had to reveal ourselves now. We've spent the last 300 years preparing for this fight." The silver-haired counselor laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "You're saying you knew all this time? We found the old records 50 years after you contained us, hidden messages from your ancestors, warning about the Devourer's return. We understood then why you really kept us isolated." Sang-hun looked each council member in the eye. "You were protecting us, giving us time to grow strong enough to fight them." Taram nodded slowly. "And now? Now we need to work together. The Thunderchild isn't just a warship. It's a gift. We'll share our technology, teach your people how to fight the Devourers. But we need to start now." A warning light flashed on Sang-hun's console. His tactical officer's voice came through the speakers. "Captain, we're detecting gravity waves from the core. They're getting stronger." "How long?" Sang-hun asked. "At current speed, 3 days until first contact." The council members looked at each other, decades of fear and mistrust fighting against the need for survival. Finally, Taram spoke for all of them. "Captain Sang-hun, the Galactic Council accepts your offer of help. We'll send orders to all our fleets to cooperate with human forces." He paused. "And we owe humanity an apology. We thought we were containing a threat. Instead, we were helping create our greatest hope." Sang-hun bowed slightly. "No apology needed, Counselor. Now let's prepare for war. The Devourers think they're hunting helpless prey. It's time they learn what happens when you corner a human. As the meeting ended, Sang-hun looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, hundreds more human ships waited in their pocket dimensions, ready to join the fight. The Council's worst fear had come true. Humanity was loose in the galaxy. But sometimes, he thought, what you fear most turns out to be exactly what you need. All hands, he spoke into the ship's comm system, battle stations. Let's show the galaxy what humanity can really do. Chief Historian Juwu walked quickly through the deepest level of the Council archives. The lights here were dim, and the air smelled old. Behind her, Captain Sang-hun and Senior Counselor Taram followed silently. No one has been down here in 50 years, Juwu said, her voice echoing in the narrow hallway. She stopped at a large metal door and placed her hand on the scanner. What we're about to see. It scared our ancestors so much that they buried it here. The door opened with a hiss. Inside was a round room filled with old data crystals and dusty screens. Juwu went to the main computer and turned it on. The machine hummed to life, projecting images in the air above them. There, she pointed to the first image. The Devourers. This is what they really look like. The image showed a massive black cloud moving through space, but when Juwu zoomed in, they could see it wasn't just a cloud. It was made of millions of small machines, all working together like angry bees. They're robots? Sang-hun asked, stepping closer to the image. Not exactly. Juwu pulled up more pictures. They're something between living and machine. They eat everything. Planets, ships, even stars. They break everything down into basic materials and use it to make more of themselves. Taram watched the images with a grim face. How did our ancestors stop them? Juwu typed more commands into the computer. New images appeared, showing ancient battles. Thousands of ships fighting against the dark cloud. Most of the ships were losing. They didn't really stop them, she explained. They found a way to push them back, to drive them toward the galaxy's core. But it cost them nearly everything. Whole civilizations died in that war. She pressed another button. A video started playing, showing an alien in an old military uniform. His message was simple but scary. If you're watching this, the Devourers have returned. We knew they would. We spent our last years preparing for this, hiding weapons and information where they might help future generations. The video changed, showing technical drawings. These were their best weapons against the Devourers. But none of them were good enough. That's why. Juwu looked at Sang-hun. That's why they left messages about humanity. What do you mean? Sang-hun asked. Juwu pulled up one last file. It was a study of Earth and humans, made thousands of years ago. They found Earth before humans had even built cities, but they saw something special in humans. The way humans never stopped trying new things, never accepted limits. They knew that given enough time, humans might develop technology that could fight the Devourers. So the Council didn't start the containment policy. Taram said slowly. We inherited it. We kept humans isolated because our ancestors told us to, but we forgot why. Look at this. Juwu showed them more readings from the ancient battles. The Devourers can't be destroyed by normal weapons. Energy just makes them stronger. Physical weapons can't hit them because they move like smoke. But your ship, Captain. She pointed at some numbers on the screen. Your gravity technology. Your space-bending engines. These are exactly the kind of weapons our ancestors hoped humanity would create. A loud alarm started ringing. Sang-hun checked his communicator. They're getting closer. The outer sensors are picking up their first waves. How much of their old technology is still hidden out there? He asked Juwu. Anything we can use. Better. Juwu smiled for the first time. We have maps showing where they hid their biggest weapons. Weapons they never got to use because the Devourers retreated too quickly. If we combine those with your ships, we might have a chance, Taram finished. They all looked at the images of the Devourers again. The dark cloud that had scared their ancestors so much was coming back. But this time, they weren't helpless. This time, they had humanity on their side. How fast can we get to these hidden weapons? Sang-hun asked. With your ship's speed, Ju checked some calculations. 2 days, maybe less. Then we better hurry. Sang-hun turned to leave, then stopped. You know, on Earth we have an old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Tarim nodded. Today, we're all friends. We have to be. The galaxy depends on it. As they left the archive room, the ancient computer kept showing images of the Devourers. But now these images didn't look quite so scary. Now they had hope. Now they had a plan. And most importantly, now they had humanity's help. Fleet Admiral Boney stood at the main window of her command center, watching the human battleship float among her fleet. The Thunderchild was so big it blocked out the stars behind it. Next to it, her best ships looked like small fish swimming near a whale. Admiral, a voice called from behind her. Dr. Dongwon is here with his report. She turned to see the Council's chief scientist walking toward her, carrying a stack of data pads. His eyes were wide with excitement. You've studied their ship? She asked. Yes, Admiral. And it's amazing. Dongwon spread his data pads on the nearby table. Everything we thought was impossible. They've done it. Their gravity engines don't just move the ship. They bend space itself. Captain Sang-hun walked in just then, followed by 2 of his officers. Bomi noticed how they moved. Confident but careful, like trained fighters trying to look peaceful. Admiral. Sang-hun bowed slightly. Your scientist has questions. Many. Dr. Dongwon could barely contain himself. Your artificial gravity system. How did you solve the power problem? Our best theories say it should need more energy than a star produces. Sang-hun smiled. We don't power it. We grow it. Grow it? Living crystals, one of Sang-hun's officers explained. We found a way to grow crystals that naturally bend gravity. They need almost no power. They just do what they do. Dr. Dongwon sat down hard in his chair. That's brilliant. Simple but brilliant. And your quantum tunneling. How do you control it so precisely? The same crystals, Sang-hun said. They don't just bend gravity. They can push against space itself. When you push hard enough, space opens up like a door. Bomi listened to them talk, watching the human captain carefully. Everything she'd learned as a military commander told her not to trust them. Their technology was too advanced. Their ship was too powerful. But they needed help against the Devourers, and humans were their only hope. Show me your weapons, she said suddenly, interrupting the science talk. Sang-hun nodded and pressed a button on his uniform. A hologram appeared over the table, showing the Thunderchild systems. Our main gun doesn't shoot energy or particles, he explained. It shoots small pieces of space itself. When these pieces hit something, they pull that something into a different dimension. The Devourers can't adapt to it because there's nothing to adapt to. The target simply goes away. And your shields? Bomi asked. Not shields exactly. We bend space around the ship. Attacks have to cross that bent space to reach us. Most of them get lost along the way. Dr. Dongwon was taking notes so fast his datapad could barely keep up. This changes everything we know about physics. Admiral, one of her officers called out. Long-range sensors are picking up movement. The Devourer's first wave is getting closer. Bomi straightened her uniform. This was it. Time to put aside old fears and work together. Captain Sang-hun, she said formally, I'm putting my fleet under your command. You know more about fighting the Devourers than we do. Sang-hun shook his head. No, Admiral. We fight together, as equals. Your ships may be smaller, but they're faster. We can use that. He waved his hand over the hologram, showing a battle plan. Your ships can dart in and out, keeping the Devourers distracted. While they're chasing you, we'll open space tiers right in the middle of their swarm. They'll never know what hit them. And the ancient weapons we found? Dr. Dongwen asked. How do they fit in? They'll be our surprise, Sang-hun grinned. The Devourers remember those weapons. They'll try to adapt to them, just like before. But while they're busy with that, we'll hit them with our new technology. Bomi looked out the window again. More ships were arriving, both council and human. The humans had been hiding whole fleets in pocket dimensions, waiting for this moment. We have 6 hours until they reach us, she said. Let's make them count. As they all left to prepare for battle, Dr. Dongwen stayed behind, still studying the human technology readings. Beautiful, he whispered, looking at the simple but incredible solutions humans had found. We spent centuries afraid they would become too powerful. We never stopped to think that maybe, just maybe, we needed them to be powerful. Outside, the Thunderchild's crystal engines hummed softly, bending space around it like ripples in a pond. The battle was coming, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy was truly ready for it. Lieutenant Jimin stood at her tactical station on the Thunderchild's bridge, watching as the first wave of Devourers appeared. On her screen, they looked like a black cloud eating the stars. All ships, report in, Captain Sang-hun ordered from his command chair. One by one, the combined fleet checked in. 20 council ships, their engines glowing blue. 15 human battleships, each hiding more space-bending weapons. And somewhere behind them, the ancient weapons waited, ready to spring their trap. First wave will reach us in 5 minutes, Jimin reported. She turned to look at Admiral Bomi, who stood next to Captain Sang-hun. The cloud is bigger than we expected. Show me the numbers, Bomi said. Jimin put the readings on the main screen. The Devourer swarm was huge, billions of tiny machines working together, turning anything they touched into more of themselves. Look at their pattern, Jimin pointed to the screen. They're not just flying forward. They're learning, adapting as they move. Each one is telling the others what it sees. Then we'll have to be smarter, Sang-hun said. He pressed his comm button. All ships, remember the plan. Council ships will attack in groups of 5. Hit and run. Don't stay in one place too long. Human ships, Jimin added, watch for my signal. When the council ships pull back, that's when we open the space tiers. Time them exactly right. The black cloud grew larger on their screens. Jimin could see individual Devourers now. They looked like metal insects, each one about the size of her hand. But there were billions of them, all hungry, all searching for things to eat. First group, go, Admiral Bomi ordered. 5 council ships shot forward, their new weapons firing. The weapons weren't meant to destroy the Devourers, just to make them angry, to make them chase the wrong targets. The plan worked. Part of the black cloud broke off, following the council ships as they darted away. Second group, go. Third group, ready. More council ships moved in, each group pulling away pieces of the swarm. The Devourers followed them, spreading out just as planned. They're taking the bait, Jimin said, getting ready to open first space tier. She watched her timing carefully. The council ships were almost in position. When they turned to escape, she pressed her button. Space itself ripped open in the middle of the Devourer swarm. A hole in reality appeared, sucking in thousands of the metal insects before they could react. When the hole closed, that part of the swarm was just gone. It worked, someone shouted. Don't celebrate yet, Sang-hun warned. They learn fast. Watch how they move now. The remaining Devourers changed their pattern. Instead of chasing the council ships, they spread out thin, making it harder to catch many of them at once. They're adapting, Bomi said. Just like you predicted. Time for Phase 2. Sang-hun nodded. Jimin, signal the hidden ships. Wake up those ancient weapons. Deep in space, huge machines that had slept for thousands of years came to life. The Devourers recognized them. These were the weapons that had driven them away before. Immediately, the swarm began changing, preparing defenses against the old weapons. They're distracted, Jimin reported. All their attention is on the ancient weapons. They're not watching us anymore. Now, Sang-hun ordered, all human ships, full attack. The Thunderchild and its sister ships moved as one. Their crystal engines bent space in ways the Devourers had never seen before. Instead of shooting at the swarm, they changed the space around it. Some areas of space became too thick to move through. Others became so thin that any Devourer entering them was stretched apart. The black cloud broke apart. For the first time in their long history, the Devourers faced an enemy they couldn't adapt to. How do you adapt to the rules of space itself being changed? It's working, Jimin said quietly. They're actually retreating. On her screen, the swarm was pulling back. Not all at once. Some groups still fought, still tried to adapt. But they were losing. Every new trick they learned was useless against the next human attack. Send the message to all ships, Sang-hun ordered. Press the attack. Don't let them regroup. Today we show them that the galaxy isn't their feeding ground anymore. The battle wasn't over. This was just the first wave. But as Jimin watched the combined fleet working together, council ships herding the swarm, human ships tearing space apart around them, ancient weapons keeping them confused, she knew something important had changed. The Devourers weren't the hunters anymore. Now they were the hunted. 3 days after the battle, Senior Counselor Taram stood in the great meeting hall of the Galactic Council. The room was packed with representatives from every species in the galaxy. They had all come to see the humans who had helped save them. Captain Sang-hun stood at the center of the hall, his dark uniform standing out among the colorful robes of the council members. Behind him, through the hall's giant windows, the Thunderchild floated proudly in space. The Devourers have retreated beyond the galaxy's edge, Sang-hun reported. Our ships are tracking them to make sure they don't try to return. And if they do return, someone asked from the crowd, then we'll be ready. Sang-hun pressed a button on his wrist. A hologram appeared, showing hundreds of human ships emerging from their hidden pocket dimensions. We've been building these ships for 300 years. Each one carries the crystal technology that the Devourers couldn't fight against. Taram stepped forward. The Council has made a decision. All restrictions on human movement through the galaxy are now lifted. The containment treaties are canceled. A murmur ran through the crowd. For centuries, everyone had believed humans needed to be contained. Now they were being given complete freedom. There's more, Taram continued. Captain Sang-hun has offered to share human technology with all Council species, not just their weapons, but their space-bending drives, their gravity controls, everything. Dr. Dongwon, who had been quietly watching from the side, suddenly spoke up. But how can we trust that this technology won't be misused? It's so powerful. Sang-hun smiled. The same way you learned to trust us during the battle. By working together. He turned to face the whole crowd. Yes, our ships are powerful. Yes, our technology can change the rules of space itself. But we never wanted to use that power to conquer or control. We built it because we knew something like the Devourers would come one day. Admiral Bomi stepped forward. She had bandages on her arm from the battle, but she stood straight and proud. I fought beside the humans, watched how they used their power. They could have taken over the galaxy any time in the past 100 years. Instead, they waited prepared, and came to help us when we needed them most. Lieutenant Jimin, who had guided the fleet's tactics during the battle, joined them. We're offering more than just technology. We're offering to teach you how we think, how we solve problems, why we never stop trying to improve. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Taram spoke again. For centuries, we feared humanity's potential. We saw how fast they advanced and thought they would become a danger to the galaxy. We were wrong. Their potential wasn't a threat. It was our greatest hope. He walked to Sang-hun and held out his hand. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally invite humanity to join us as full members of the galactic community, not as contained subjects, but as equal partners. Sang-hun shook his hand. We accept. And we have so much to share. The crystal technology is just the beginning. Wait until you see what else we've been working on in our spare time." The room burst into cheers and applause. Council members rushed forward to talk to the humans, to ask questions, to start learning. In all the excitement, Tarim pulled Sang-hun aside. "There's one thing I still don't understand. If you had all this power, why did you stay contained for so long? Why not break free earlier?" Sang-hun looked out at the thunderchild floating in space. "Because the containment taught us something important. It taught us patience, wisdom, how to build our strength without letting it corrupt us." He smiled. "Your ancestors were right about humans. We never stopped trying to improve things. But thanks to the containment, we learned to improve ourselves first." As the celebration continued around them, more ships appeared in space, both council and human vessels coming together to form a new combined fleet. The galaxy was changing. Old fears were being replaced by new partnerships, and somewhere in the dark between the stars, the Devourers were running away, having learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the thing you fear most turns out to be the thing that saves you. And humanity, finally free to roam the stars, was ready to show the galaxy what they could really do, not as conquerors, not as threats, but as friends, teachers, and protectors of all life. The Council's worst fear had become their greatest hope, and the stars themselves seemed brighter for it.